What's up, guys? Frank Macaluso here from Garageaholic, giving you another episode of the E24 LT1. Part 8, we're going to be doing some statusing items, including the shifter assembly, which has been modified and shortened in order to fit onto the E24. We'll talk about the accelerator pedal. We'll talk about the radiator core support and its installation into the actual E24, and a number of other items on this jam-packed 10-minute episode. Part 8. But before we do, please consider subscribing or tell your friends about what I'm doing. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm also on Facebook too, and a lot of good jam-packed stuff in there in terms of engine swaps, technical info, the various things that I've done. I've got a pretty good resume I'm building up, guys, and please let people know what I'm doing. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the episode. Yep, that's right. I threw it on the ground. Why? Because I feel confident that my welds are good. Now let me tell you something. I TIG welded, aluminum AC TIG welded this enclosure, which is basically kind of like a cast aluminum. Cast aluminum is really difficult to weld. It's very, very dirty. It's very, very porous. And to get really good welds on cast aluminum is very difficult. So no, these welds do not look the prettiest. And that's okay. They're not supposed to look amazing, but they are very strong and they're welded all the way around. Not to mention the shortened part of these two stubs here have been completely shortened by a number of inches, probably four inches maybe. But also we added a custom rear carrier support right here, which will go on the chassis side. So we have two that are mounted on the transmission and two that are mounted on the chassis. So let's take this shifter assembly and let's install it onto the car and let's just see how it shifts. Now this here is the shifter assembly from the Camaro as well. This is a shortened shifter selector rod, just like the shortened carrier right here. So they're basically shortened to match and fit into the E24. I got a shifter pin, I got a couple of other pieces of hardware, and then this here is an E36 rear carrier bushing, which goes essentially right into this just like that, and then the two lower mounts are actually screwed down and bolted into the frame. This is a modified carrier assembly which has been welded to account for this new plate that I've added, which allows it to install in a custom configuration, because as I looked at the E24 carriers, they're a lot like the E30 carriers, where it has that L bracket bend into them. Very expensive just for the carrier, so I figured I would just get one of these cheaper ones, which is about 25 bucks on Amazon or eBay, and or FCP or ECS or whatever, and you can just modify it in order to make it work for this swap. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's reverse. So yeah, you see the bushing moving, doing exactly what it should be doing on shifts. All right, so let's talk about the accelerator pedal, shall we? Yes, we shall. So this is a Camaro, 6th Gen Camaro, Gen 5 LT1 accelerator pedal, basically a throttle pedal. And it's got, you know, its own wiring harness, right, that will end up getting hooked up into the DME that'll talk to it. But the mechanical installation of this pedal is quite different than the E30 or E24 pedal for that matter. So what we needed to do was make a latching mechanism on the bottom of these guys. See those two little nubs on the bottom there? Those guys actually snap in at the bottom, and then on the top is just a hole there's a spacer bushing in there, and then there's a pointy nub on the other side that kind of helps it to align. So on the bottom side, that's exactly what we have here with the two forks, slits inside of some 14 gauge sheet metal. And then on the other side, the top side, we are not using this guy right here. We're actually using this one instead. This is our centering spacer. And then this is a threaded bushing right there, so that when you push this pedal in, set it into place, and you can basically slide it and then screw it in right there, and it's not going anywhere. So let's do that real quick and I'll show you how that installs. You know, I ain't even gonna time lapse this. I'm just gonna go through it and talk about the installation. Very simple. Bottom side, make sure that it's pushed up. The bottom is locked. The top fits right in there. You put your screw down right in there. It's actually an M6. And then we just tighten it down like this. There it is. Accelerator pedal is completely put in, and it's pretty much in there. So the carpet's gonna rest above right here. So it's gonna fit really nice and flush with the carpet. I'm gonna put these spacers back in here to make sure that there's no like dead spot here where the pedal is going to end up, you know, where what might sink through. And then, yeah, that's it. We are in good shape here for the accelerator pedal. Now on to the next. All right. Radiator is now going to sit right like that. Okay? Just like that, nice and flat. These two guys here are gonna end up going on the side of the radiator, just like that. They need to get TIG welded on either side. Let's get a closer look at that. So this is one of the brackets. It's gonna get TIG welded to the side, and there's gonna be a nut insert right here, and it's going to be bolted right to that. So there's gonna be one on the other side too, and it's gonna meet it. And then there's going to be another mount down below that's gonna prevent it from, you know, sliding like that. Nobody wants that on their radiator. So we need to make sure that it is secure on at least 3 points before we start working on the plumbing. So so what we'll do is, let's just tack weld these, at least get these brackets in place, and move on from there. All right, how did I do? Well, the radiator is going to be pulled right up against the core support, just like this. You can see right down here, let's turn the light on, that guy sits right up against it. Obviously, the aluminum tab needs to be trimmed, and that will happen. Here, it looks like it's hitting right up against the actual core support, the little lip there. And that lip is there for strengthening. That's why this is kind of bent out along this edge, is to strengthen the core support. But there really is no harm in just grinding it down right in the location that prevents the radiator from fitting square up against it. And then that'll actually take up the space that you can see here between that aluminum bracket and the core support. So that actually won't be such a bad thing. I think we're in good shape with the radiator. So we'll focus more on that and get that mounted up and finish that later. Trimmed up these brackets, nice. I gotta obviously clean up the soot from this, but these brackets are nice and trimmed and ready to drill your pilot hole through. And then we'll put the radiator back in the car and then drill the pilot holes through where these pilot holes are. And then we can start putting our hardware on to get this thing sitting pretty. Radiator is now fully installed. At least 2 of the maybe 3 positions mounting on this radiator are installed. I put in some M8 bolts on either side, and they are held together by a rivet nut. So that's how you install the rivet nut, as you saw in the time lapse. And I got one on either side, connected directly to the frame rail. And you know, this radiator really isn't going anywhere. I was concerned about the bottom kind of coming out here, but you know, I can't even pull it. I can't even pull it back if I tried. So I think this radiator might actually be complete as is. I'm very happy about how this turned out. So now that that's done, let's talk about the next thing on the list of this engine swap. This is the most fun part of the episode. And that is exhaust. That's right. So we have our 2.5-inch downpipes. As you remember, I already relocated the pre-cat oxygen sensor on the passenger side, and the driver's side does not require it. The exhaust will be coming down, going to some flex pipe, and then it'll be going Well, you know what, why don't I just describe it to you? Here is the kit. This is a full Flowmaster dual mandrel bent 2.5-inch exhaust kit. And all of this comes with it. I'm not going to be using all of this, but what I am going to be using for the most part is this. That's right. So you're coming down from the headers, it's going to go to the flex tubes, right? This is 2.5-inch stainless steel flex tubes. Very, very important for you to have a nice, professional looking, professional feeling exhaust system. It'll go to some free